power supply stuff. There's a little step stool that's right by the edge of the stage. There's a bottle of water. There are many extra chairs in case anyone, I guess, wanted to join us. Sit on the sideline, uh, waiting for Dr. Mann to show up. Other board members to show up, and yeah, it should be a fun time tonight. Should be a great time tonight. I think it'll be fun. There's some very talented people who do a lot of stuff. I don't know if any of the paintings or murals in here are student made, but they're absolutely wonderful. They're absolutely great. I would I'd hire them to paint me something.
Director Carr,
Here.
Director Garcia is logging on. Director Herndon,
Present.
Director O'Halloran,
Here.
Director Leonard,
Present.
Director Peterson,
Present.
Director Simpson,
Present.
Director Taylor,
Present.
and Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Present.
We have 8 present.
I will now ask the secretary to lead us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Members, please mute your devices.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin tonight's meeting, I am saddened to have to call attention to the news of another tragic school shooting. At least 14 elementary age students with one teacher have been killed at a school in Uvadale, Texas, with several more injured. So I would like for everyone to join me in a moment of silence in recognition of this tragedy. We will now have a, thank you for that, sorry. Okay. We will now have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes. Para las personas que desean escuchar la Junta Escolar en español, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el número de código de Junta 608-130-5362. Una vez más, para las personas que desean escuchar la Junta en español, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el número de código 608-130-5362. Gracias.
Madam Chair.
Yep, I was muted. I apologize. Pursuant to Board Rule 1.06, this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members may be participating in person from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. We will now move to our items of business. As stated in the public notice, individuals who wish to speak were required to register in advance. I ask those waiting to speak to please remain on the platform until you are called upon. Although we were on a virtual platform, we will still follow Robert's Rule of Orders, which dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair. Also, any questions or requests, including those from board members or the administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. As always, written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Written comments may be submitted to the board via the Office of Board Governance, PO Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the meeting's agendas and minutes page of the MPS website. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Madam Chair, for our listening audience, Director Garcia has joined the platform. Item number 1 is an informational overview and public hearing on the 2022-23 Superintendent's proposed budget. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would administration please present the item?
Good evening, Chair Gokul and members of the Strategic Planning and Budget Committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. The fiscal year 2023 proposed $1.3 billion budget is made up of school operations, including nutrition, construction, extension, and grant funds. Through this budget, school funding was increased by almost $26 million. Attached to the item is an update of the referendum and the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funding. Due to the additional funding provided through the referendum and ESSER, we are able to supplement opportunities for the students in the areas of art, music, library, and physical education, increase professional services support, including social and emotional learning and mental health, expanded dual enrollment and career and technical education offerings, deliver more professional development for staff to provide ambitious instruction across the curriculum, provide the needed technology to engage students through online learning, offer additional extracurricular opportunities and clubs to help students connect with their schools. The budget reflects the commitment to provide the best possible learning opportunity for all Milwaukee Public Schools children. Martha Kreisman is here with me, and I would have Martha to say a few words at this time. Martha.
Good evening, Chair Gokangandi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. I would like to bring to your attention the last attachment to the budget agenda item. It is a resolution for school operations, which includes nutrition funding, construction, and extension funds. The committee has been deliberating and amending the budget. When the board is ready to act on the budget, they will provide final approval for the approved spring budget with amendments and also approve the resolution. This resolution does not provide the amount for the tax levy at this time, but will be completed at the fall adjustment. The resolution states that almost $1.1 billion is required for the operation of Milwaukee Public Schools. This amount includes nutrition services and the amount that will be levied for the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program. For the construction fund, just under $3 million is set aside, with almost $2 million of that to come from the tax levy. And the extension fund has over $38 million, with over $30 million of that raised by the tax levy to be used for maintenance of playgrounds, recreation centers, and activities. We look forward to the discussion tonight and any questions you may have.
That concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer questions that you have. Thank you.
Madam Chair, do we have any public testimony on this item?
Yes, Chair Gokul Gandhi, we do have individuals on the platform registered to speak. Would you like to go to the speakers right now?
Yes, if the committee is okay with that, we will go to the speakers first. Okay, great. Let's do that.
Sounds good. Thank you. The first speaker that we have on the platform registered to speak on item number 1 is Amy Hernandez. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony. That's Amy Hernandez. Okay. It looks like I see the speaker on the platform and okay. Her microphone is unmuted, so we should be able to hear Amy Hernandez.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do I need to spell my name again?
Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Amy Hernandez, Hernandez.
Thank you.
I am a driver for nutritional services. I would like to speak about equal pay for the drivers. It has been brought to the attention of all the drivers that new hires are making more an hour than people who have been there for years. Like me, I've been driving for MPS for over 4 years now, and a new hire is making $2 more an hour than me and most other drivers. During the past 2 years through the pandemic, we have come to work to make sure MPS children would receive their lunches and breakfast, dealing with issues such as not having the proper equipment to do our job safely, to a shortage of drivers. We all went above and beyond to get the food to the schools. Some of us working later hours and coming in to work on scheduled days off to complete deliveries. With this being said, I would like to suggest for the board's consideration to change the hourly pay for the drivers to truly reflect the hard work and years that a lot of us have dedicated and put in. I do realize that we are to receive a raise in July, but even with the raise, I will still be making less than a new hire. Plain and simple, the inequity is glaring. Drivers are feeling unappreciated and resentful. I would like to suggest to the board that the pay for all the drivers be the same across the board, and then we would not have these issues amongst the drivers and the managers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Beverly Hamilton Williams. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Beverly Williams, BVRLY WILLIAMS.
Thank you.
I'm concerned about the 22-23 budget being approved without sufficient explanations, of past expenditures and the lack of funds being spent to address the special education population of mostly boys in most restricted placement self-contained classrooms, especially those who remain in these classrooms when they leave MPS with certificates of attendance or dropout. There is a correlation between this population of students and the significant increase of criminal activities in our community. Where is the funding? I'm also concerned with only $111,795 being spent on social emotional learning in the last budget. And now you're saying that you're going to spend so much money on this budget, but for mental health. But you did receive $96,000 from the governor to be spent on mental health also. I'm also concerned about the $79,617 spent on direct student services. That's the only money that was in the Easter budget that I have reviewed. We need more transparency with taxpayer funds. How can MPS allot $12 million to secure art, gym, and PE teachers in the last budget, only use $5 million, have $7 million left over, and now you're going to allot $14 million to attain these same teachers with multiple vacancies? What are you doing with the funds that are still in the budget with these vacancies? Where is all of this money? It seems to, there seems to be a lack of accountability. I feel that there needs to be a federal audit of the budget for Milwaukee Public Schools before this budget is passed, because I feel there is money missing. We also demand the removal of the superintendent, senior staff.
Mute the
Madam
mic.
Chair, Madam Chair, can we please?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. If Ms. Williams has any comments about the budget, nope, then we will move on to the next speaker.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Amy Mizialko. Please state your name, spell your last name, and begin your testimony.
Amy Mizialko, Mizialko. I am the president of the
Thank you.
Teachers Education Association. Speaking tonight to note that numerous ad hoc compensation amendments have been made to the proposed budget, and these amendments have been made without any consultation with the MTEA, the representative of over 5,100 public education workers in the district. The implementation of ad hoc budget amendments over the years has made it very difficult to ensure that newly rebuilt salary schedules are not disrupted. MTEA is in favor of raising pay and salaries for MPS public education workers, but there are nearly 20 salary schedules in the teacher unit alone that the MTE must meet and confer with administration over. Adjusting the pay of one job class and not others will result in additional staffing problems. For example, MTEA is in strong support of higher pay for paraprofessionals, but our safety assistants in the same unit are not paid nearly enough, and the dire staffing needs in the safety ranks are the worst MPS has seen. Salary schedules must be adjusted commensurately. Another example, Amendment 7 would add one additional step to the salary schedules of all classified staff, which MTEA is in support of, including but not limited to paraprofessionals, safety aides, social work aides, CHAs, building service helpers, and nutrition staff. MTEA expects to discuss all job classes referred to in this amendment, including those that aren't mentioned, specifically general assistants, interpreters, and SNAs. We cannot leave those workers out. Other amendments that adjust the bottom of the salary schedule without addressing the middle and the top would be a mistake, resulting in further compression and are unfair to thousands of workers at the middle and the top of the salary schedule. MTEA looks forward to meeting and conferring with administration and working with the board on all salary schedules. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, while we do have individuals registered to speak on tonight, that completes the testimony for those who are on the platform actually prepared to speak on this item.
Madam Secretary, if you do have speakers hop back on the platform, we can pause our discussion to make sure that their testimony is heard. So please.
Yes, during item number 1. Yes,
yes,
that is correct.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So now we will go to questions from committee members. Does anybody have a question? Director Taylor, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Gokagandhi. I consider it is going to be maybe a question and a comment, and we've talked about it at length, but I received a reply email for the administration in reference to VFC, the violence-free zone. And when I did a double check of the page I was sent, there were 2 page numbers. It was like 3C-159 and 3C-79. The 3C-79 stated something around $2,072,628. It seems to be in alignment or correlation of a whole budget, but it didn't speak pertaining to what is used for the violence-free zone money or details. And so I guess I would like further clarification on that. And I'm just going off of the email response that I got, but I couldn't really find it. And it's saying the page was 3C-70-79.
Administration.
I can go ahead. Director Gokagandhi, members of the committee, Lynn Rule, Director, Financial Planning and Budget. On 3C-79, the portion for the violence-free zone is the contracts. So if you look in the purchase services area, that's where that money is.
Director Taylor.
Yeah, okay. And so I get it. So in other words, we don't have anything that basically breaks it down. And I'm saying it more for our listening audience and better yet for our young people who testified at length. So I was so glad to have them testify, but I also want to make sure that when we're sending replies back, and I truly do think administration for this, is that we doing it in such a way that they can understand, because these are, what we consider our future. We want to make sure that presently we're having an understanding and giving the space and opportunity for them to understand. So it doesn't break it down in length of details of where did the money go. Like VFP was, let's just say 70,000 of this 2 million, but it's all graphed together in like a contracted, subsidized opportunities. Is that correct?
Administration.
see. Chair Gopangandi, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. You're correct that if a student was looking at the line items, they wouldn't be able to tell what that contract is for. That contract line happens to be for the violence-free zone. So that whole amount is set aside for that. But yeah, somebody looking at the budget wouldn't realize that. And it even takes us a little bit to put all that together when we're trying to answer a question. So we've heard that for some of these topics that come up quite often, that we should try to show, like especially mental health has been so important that, you know, in the going forward, we can show that so the public can see it too.
Director Taylor.
Yep, hopefully the last one. Also that there are 12 schools currently been served and there are 5 youth advisors. I was also informed that there is space and opportunities for an increase. And I wanted to know, would that be in reference to the youth advisors or to more of the one-on-one services that our young people can receive?
Administration.
Chair Gulkangandi, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. There is more funding in ESSER 3. There was money in ESSER 2, but that was for this year. And we extended the months for violence-free zone this year because only 10 months were funded. And going forward, there's an opportunity to see how can we expand the violence-free zone. And we can look at the needs and make that determination if it would be better to have more youth advisors at schools, or, you know, have more youth advisor at the particular schools they're already at, or add additional schools.
Director Taylor.
Yep, thank you for that. And I look forward to us working on that. And so for right now, that'll be it, Chair Gokugandi, but I am proposing and getting some things together to ensure that we make that happen for our young people. Thank you, administration.
Director Taylor, would it be helpful to ask administration, at least for mental health services and this particular grouping of VFC, to have a breakdown of that, the dollar amount spent?
It would be very helpful, not only for the young people, but probably for us as well too, if it is possible, because I will be meeting with our young people again to just to relate these answers and to take on some of the other questions that they have.
Sure. Administration, would that be possible?
Chair Gokangandi, Director Taylor, members of the committee, yes, that would be possible. It's for this year, it's only a little more complicated because they work through 2 different contracts. So it's not something I could do right here now, but I did print that information the other day, so we can get a schedule together for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will go next to President Peterson and then Director Carr. President Peterson.
Yes, I wanted to thank Ms. Hernandez, the driver for nutritional services, for testifying. And I was just wondering if the administration could give some background on that. I know that when we increased salaries as a board to $15 an hour, there was compression, and I thought that we had dealt with all units in terms of the need to spread things out. I was wondering if maybe this is one group of individuals that we did not do that to. And so that, I mean, she said that new drivers are making more than she is, who has been working for 4 years.
Administration.
Chair Gokugandi, Director Peterson, members of the committee, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. The kitchen drivers start out at $21.65 an hour. And the top step of their schedule goes to $25.99 an hour. When we do hire individuals, we take into consideration prior experience. So there are situations someone was hired this year, and based on their experience, they were placed at a step above the first step. And so that's why you can have situations where someone come in as hired may have come in at a higher rate than someone that may have be already working in the district.
Director Peterson?
Thank you. That clarifies that. Could you tell me how many steps are there for nutritional drivers for nutritional services? Or is that the same as other nutrition workers?
Administration.
Yes, there are 10.
Director Peterson, any follow-up?
10 for the drivers and the nutrition workers. Are they the same?
Administration.
That is correct. They are the same.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Any other questions?
Not at the present moment.
Great, thank you. We will go to Director Carr.
My question specifically or is specifically related to the compensation study. I wanted to know if the administration can provide more detail around what the intent is and what the proposed timeline is for the compensation study. And the reason why I'm asking is because I think last Thursday I missed the meeting. I was at a graduation and I submitted amendments, but I think if a compensation schedule or a study, is going to be facilitated or implemented, I'm wondering if it would make sense to proceed tonight or to wait on the study to be completed. And so if the administration can provide more detail regarding the compensation study, that would be great.
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Carr, and members of the committee, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, our intent with the job or classification study is to review all of our salary schedules, because we understand all of our positions, we need to be competitive with the market. There are there are a number of organizations out there, limited, that have the ability to take on that type of study for an organization this large. So we're hoping that we could bring a contract in the next couple months so that we can have the process start. We can't give you an exact deadline of when it will be completed. It is our belief at this time that we're going to have to do phases because it is a lot. We have a large number of job categories. So we may have to chunk it and maybe start out with certain areas, maybe be in the classified and then move into the certificated and route. So I think it will be a phased approach over the next year.
Director Carr.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Director Carr? Great.
Not now.
Are there any other questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none. Madam Secretary, what is the next item?
Madam Chair, just for the public record, the individuals who had registered to speak on the item, no one is on the platform at this time. We did check and monitor that as you were having your discussion.
Thank you so much.
So the next item on the agenda is item number 2. And that's the work session and action on amendments to the proposed MPS 2022-23 budget. The recommendation is that the committee determine what action it wishes to take relative to the amendments to the budget.
At this time, we will hold a work session to consider board members' amendments to the proposed budget. As this is a work session and is customary and was publicly noticed, we will not be taking public testimony on this item. For each amendment, I will ask for a motion for discussion purposes. We will discuss and take action on that amendment before moving to the next one. So, Madam Secretary, what is the first amendment?
And there would not be a second required as we are at the committee level. The first amendment is amendment number 4 by Directors Peterson and Gokul Gandhi, and that is to set aside funds to provide more support for MPS communications, social media, media relations, and marketing.
Does Director Peterson wish to make any comments?
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to remind the listening audience and others that the school board contracted with Kane Communication Group a couple months ago to do a communications audit and do a plan to improve MPS's communications capacity in the areas that Dr. Mann just mentioned. They are, they have talked, I think, to some. I know they have talked to some administrators, various people, as they've audited the work that has been done. They are not in right now ready to recommend specific individuals or not specific positions, I should say, to improve the work, our communications work, but they definitely are clear that the people who are working in communications need additional help on a number of different levels. So what this proposed amendment does is it sets aside enough money for at least three positions that are to be determined, and this will be something that then the administration and the board would decide and vote on in terms of new positions and the posting and et cetera. So I encourage our board to approve this because it will help put a real the necessary funds behind their recommendations so we actually are able to improve our work. Do you want me to make a motion now? Okay, so I move that the amendment number 4 on the communications work for 3 positions that to be determined.
Great. I would also like to make some comments. So can I please pass the gavel?
So noted, Vice Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you. I want to echo Director Peterson's sentiments. We've also heard time and time again that communication is an area we could improve within the district for all of our stakeholders. And so hopefully these 3 positions will really focus on the communications protocols we have and the communication waterfalls, eliminating any redundancies, improving upon the current processes that we have, streamlining things, making sure that we are really efficient in the way that we communicate with our parents and our students, so that you know that it's going to be a message that's delivered in a timely manner. And so I really do hope that my fellow committee members support this, and I hope that the listening audience knows that we are hearing you and we are proposing this as a solution to some of the push points that you feel. So with that, I will take the gavel back.
Here you go. So noted.
Thank you very much. Okay, does administration wish to make any comments?
So Gandhi and members of the committee, the district contracted with the services of Kane Communication to consult in the development of a comprehensive marketing and communication strategy. As a part of the review of our current state of communications, Kane has recommended additional support for the growing need of consistent communication and to ensure significant work of Milwaukee Public Schools is reported. This amendment aligns with the needs identified. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Okay, seeing none, what is Madam Secretary, can you please? Oh, hold on 1 second. We do have a question from Director Carr.
Yes, for clarification, this is to create more positions to support the communications department.
Director Peterson, would you like to answer that?
Yes, it would be for creating positions.
Any follow-up, Director Carr?
Nope,
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Peterson's motion to approve amendment number 4, which is to set aside funds to provide more support with MPS communications, social media, media relations, and marketing. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr,
Aye.
Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor,
Aye.
and Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next amendment is amendment number 5 by Director O'Halloran, and that is to allocate funding towards the salary of nutrition staff and to assist the district with recruitment and retention.
Does Director O'Halloran wish to make any comments?
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. So I put this forward because, as we heard last night in the nutrition update at AF&P, I think we have 22 schools that are currently in production mode, and they've identified, or maybe it was 22 that are currently in production, identified 26 more, and that's dependent on our ability to attract and retain enough nutrition service workers to support the production. And so I asked administration for some input on kind of how can we problem solve this. One area that was identified as an issue is the civil service exam, that certain, there will be X amount of people apply once they hear that there is an exam that they need to take. Some will self-select out after hearing that news. And then after that, a certain amount will pass. So I asked for $100,000 to be put into not necessarily just for this one item, but that would be one way that we could use that to produce some sort of flyer to just let people know that, like, we're here to support you as you go through that exam. As was pointed out, we can't give people the answers, but we can let them know that they don't need to be afraid to take the test. I also, another solution that was brought forward would be professional development. Some nutrition service staff are the first day that they see their workstation is the first day of school. And so under this $100,000 would be professional development so that they would be able to walk in their space and, make the kitchen their own before the students arrive. And so I don't feel that I necessarily need to say this is the $50,000 here and $50,000 there. I just want to allocate some funds towards attraction and retention of nutrition service workers. And the reason why I don't think, this has been identified as an issue before I was on the board. There was some improvement when in the first year or two, and then the pandemic really kind of cratered a lot of those gains that we had made in improvement of our lunches. And so our ability to staff these would also mean that in the areas where they're still in receiving the packed lunches, it alleviates even in that because they're making fewer of those packed lunches, is my understanding. So I hope that I can count on my colleagues to allocate additional funds in this area. And with that, I would like to move approval of this amendment.
Great. Administration.
Mr. Chair Gokul Gandhi and members of the committee, amendment number 5 would reallocate funds in ESSER 3 already earmarked for nutrition for the specific purpose of better quality services and food. The amendment also requests to develop a process to waive the civil service exam currently required. Martha Kreisman will provide some further comments. Martha.
Chair Gokangandi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The funding could be designated from nutrition funding and ESSER 3 for $100,000 to address this amendment. The administration would recommend waiting for a compensation consultant to review salary schedules before making changes to any of the salary schedules. However, funding could be used to provide extra hours for food service staff for professional development concerning improving the food to meet the needs of students. In addition, a flyer could be created to market important information for applicants of food service jobs so the applicants would be better understand the process. And funding could also support potential candidates to be better prepared for the required test until a possible change is made to that requirement. Thank you.
Great. We will take questions from committee now. Director Cart, your hand had been raised. Is that a question for this? No, you do not. Okay, great. So the order is Director Taylor, Director Peterson, Director Garcia, and Director Herndon. So just so that you know where you're in queue. So we will start with Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Gokagandi, and thank you, Director O'Halloran, for bringing this forward, and especially for the civil service, application or testing. I know that was a big hiccup. I would also like to be asked to be a co-sponsor on this, and looking forward to hopefully some of the changes we can do to impact the nutrition here.
I see a thumbs up from the author. So Madam Secretary, if you could please add.
So noted.
Great. Director Taylor, any other comments?
No, that'll be it. Thank you, Chair Gokagandi.
Thank you. We will go to Director Peterson next.
Thank you. I support this. I'm just a little confused by exactly what the $100,000 is going to be put towards. What it says in the intent is to allocate $100,000 to increase the salary levels of nutrition staff through a possible dollar for dollar match on the funding allocation for this effort. And then it talks about the civil service exam. What I heard from the administration was, and I think, and from Director O'Halloran, a PD to talk about the process to help people, a flyer to help about the process, PD to get people accustomed into onboarding or other reasons, and then support for the test takers, however that might manifest itself. But I don't understand the dollar for dollar, the $100,000 increase to salary levels, what that means.
Director O'Halloran.
Yes, thank you. So I had been approached by somebody on the city side about possibly collaborating on something through their own budget and then through our budget. Whether or not that happens, if that does not happen, that's fine. So I wrote it with that intent. When the administration came back to me, they shifted from a salary focus to focus on, I did also talk about the civil service exam when I put it forward. So, I mean, if we wanted to create some sort of sign-on bonus, if that's, if we wanted to do it, attack it as a compensation issue, I would be open to that. But I'm also trying to be mindful that sometimes I think I know the answer, and administration is closer to the actual issue, if that makes sense. So like, I don't want to, with the salaries, like if we commit to changing salary, like does that have those ripple effects that some of the other speakers had spoken about with the compression, or if it's without the compensation study, can I say that it's really compensation that's filtering people out from signing on to be staffed? You know what I mean? So I wanted to put forward an amendment allocating funds that would help with attraction and retention in a way that administration thought was feasible, I guess, is what it comes down to.
We will go to administration for any comments they might have, and then Director Peterson, I'll ask you if you have any follow-up. Administration, do you have any comments? If not,
Yes.
Okay.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Adrian Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, we would agree. If we would make a change to the salary for the food service assistants, that can create a compression issue. Because you do the food service assistants, then you got the food service managers, and so we got to address them as a promotional opportunity. So there are those ripple effects that we would definitely be concerned about, and would prefer that we wait to do a compensation study so we can look at all of our groups holistically.
Chair Gandhi and members of the committee, but also looking at the 3 avenues that we laid out there would be sufficient around professional development, around support and tutoring, or whatever that may be for employers to get there, as well as opportunities for communication to make sure that staff is aware of procedures, protocol, and to prepare them for test readiness.
Thank you. Director Peterson, any follow-up?
Yeah, I guess I just asked again for the maker of the amendment to see if she would agree to what the superintendent has laid out: the flyer communication process, the PD, and support for the test takers, just so it's clear in our minds what we're voting for.
Director O'Halloran.
I am open to that. I guess at this point, I had put in a different intent and administration responded differently. So I guess I would just need guidance from the board clerk on if something needs to be amended within the amendment, or if we can just verbally proceed to take that course of action without changing the intent section, if that makes sense.
Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Director O'Halloran, specifically, the amendment would then read, the motion to the amendment would read that Director O'Halloran moves approval of amendment number 5 with Director Taylor co-sponsoring, moving forward the funding with the intent as outlined by the administration.
Director O'Halloran, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
And Director Taylor, are you still okay with a co-sponsor?
I am.
Great. Okay.
So noted.
Director Peterson, I'm like, who are we going to? Director Peterson, any follow-up on that?
No, just thank you.
Great. Then we will move to Director Garcia, and I see Director Simpson has joined the line queue, so I will add you there. So Director Garcia, then Director Herndon, then Director Simpson.
Most of my questions have been asked, but I just wanted clarification. So the original motion to this was asking for a waiver on the test. However, the administration's recommendation is that we keep the test, but instead provide support in the terms of professional development, better communication as to expectations, and then support and tutoring to get folks through this exam. Am I understanding this correctly?
So I'll go to Director O'Halloran first, and then we will go to the administration for comment.
Yes, thank you. So we're not at liberty to waive the exam. It's not something that the board or MPS has power over. The best we can do is prepare applicants to be successful in their endeavors. I think it would. And administration can correct me if I'm wrong, because I did ask this question. I think that is a state requirement. It's not even just a city requirement. So we would need to take that up with the always helpful legislature, is my understanding.
Administration.
Gandhi and members of the committee, yes, by being a city of the, Milwaukee being a city of the first class, that is a state requirement. We do not have the autonomy to do so. However, we also indicated when we talked to Director O'Halloran that we would be inquiring around, is there anything that can be done? But in the meantime, what we have is a situation we have to work with individuals to pass the exam.
Director
Okay.
Garcia, any follow-up?
Nope, that is all. Thank you.
Okay, great. We will go to Director Herndon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The question I have is something mentioned from Director O'Halloran, if I'm not mistaken, was extra hours could be paid for. And I wanted to know how that fit in this amendment, because we've, as a board, we've been speaking, and every one of us have been working in some way, shape, or form on this whole issue around nutrition. So my question is, this extra hours was mentioned. Does that fit into this at all? Or is that something that we're working towards for the fall?
Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. So the way it was explained to me by administration when I asked for kind of what your best thinking is, if I gave you $100,000 or, allocated some additional funds, how could we do this? Administration said that additional hours perhaps before like the first day would be helpful, but I would love if administration could jump in and explain some of that, some of their thinking around that.
Administration.
Chair Gulpangandi, Director O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. As far as waiting so that we can have this compensation study done, another way to get additional pay to staff would be to have them work extra hours, and that work could be professional development, because as we develop our staff, we'll provide better services for our students. And with staff coming in, I can't imagine coming in the first day and having to serve the students right away, and never having, if I'm a new staff, never having seen my place of work. So that was one idea, is to make sure that they can come in earlier and see where they're going to work and get some professional development on their work. But we can also do other types of professional development as the need fits. And I'm sure extra hours would be, staff would be happy to get those extra hours. And then, go ahead. Adria Maddaleni would like to.
Chair Gulpangandi and members of the committee, I made a statement about the city of the first class earlier, and I want to have Adria to make some clarifications there, because it's a city of the first class, it's a state thing as well as a city piece as well, when the city used the civil service exam as well. Adria?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adria Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. Under state law, as a city of the first class, the school district of the city of the first class, they must follow civil service rules when it comes to their classified positions, which essentially are your non-educational, instructional staff. Part of civil service rules require a testing component. So the state doesn't specifically require you to have testing. They say you need to have rules that involve some form of testing when you take on applicants. And historically, before, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, the city of Milwaukee did all of our classified hiring. And so they have their civil service rules. And so their rules included a testing component, and that's what was followed. And we have continued to follow that model and followed their procedures that they use for civil service rules for their employees.
Director Herndon.
Yes. So to clarify, professional development could come out of this. as well as extra hours, which is something that we've discussed extensively in the past too, to make the jobs more attractive, if you will, because the pay is not super high. So, and their hours are pretty much limited. I don't know if they're 5 hours, 6 hours a day or something like that. So I guess it would boil down to Director O'Halloran keeping track to make sure that what we're expecting out of this is professional development for one, and the potential for extra hours for number two.
Director O'Halloran, you got that?
Yes.
You're going to keep track of it for us?
And some sort of coaching to help applicants get through the process so we have more people making it to the first day or the day before the first day.
Okay, thank you.
Director Herndon, would you like any clarification from administration? Are you good?
I'm good.
Great, awesome. Then we will move to Director Simpson.
Thank you, Chair Gopal-Gandhi. So most of my questions and concerns have been answered. I appreciate the points that have been raised. I do feel like once we start adjusting salaries, we kind of create other issues, which, with the best of intentions, we just don't see. And so I appreciate Director O'Halloran kind of being open to hearing that message, and look forward to a compensation study being done, and hope we can get that rolling for all of our employees, because I know that there isn't any one of us on the board who doesn't believe that our workers deserve, a good paying job and deserve, a raise. So thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Seeing none. Who would have thought testing in this economy? But is there a motion on the floor? Director Carr.
I move approval. Oh, sorry. Director Taylor, sorry. I move approval of the recommendations.
Great.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We do have a motion by Director O'Halloran.
I'm so sorry.
Approval right away. And Director Taylor to co-sponsor.
Yes.
The actual motion, as I have it, is that Director O'Halloran moves approval of amendment number 5 with the intent to be implemented as outlined by the administration.
Yes. Okay, can we call the roll?
On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director O'Halloran?
Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Director Taylor?
Aye.
And Chair Gopal-Gandhi?
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
The next amendment is amendment number 6 by Director Garcia, and that is to support a centrally funded Newcomer Center at South Division High School.
Okay, Director Garcia, would you wish to make some comments? You're muted.
All right, my little dial thing's not working. All right, thank you. And yes, so this right here, I'm hoping to propose this as phase 1 of a longer strategy to establish a Newcomer Center at South Division High School. In conversations with administrations at that school, really looking at the type of teacher that is needed to really support, our students that, fall within, refugee and immigrant status that come with, limited English language proficiency. So at this time, I'm proposing a FTE that is covering ESL as well as math and ELA. And these are positions that, ESL and reading credits count as electives. So there's a risk of students falling behind in their graduation requirements. So the structure of ESL, Math, and ELA would allow for students to continue to earn credits while they're still getting that specialized support during language acquisition. And providing support in these areas would allow for students to, gain credits for graduation, specifically as they transition out of the Newcomer Center. So let it be known, MPS has a one center currently that serves 5th through 8th grade. So the hope is to extend these services for populations in our high school, specifically establishing one at South Division High School. So yeah, so these positions are phase one of a strategy that's a little bit more longer term.
Would administration like to make comments?
Yes, Chair Gogangandi and members of the committee. Amendment number 6 intends to start a Newcomer Center at South Division High School. Allocated are 3 FTEs, which will be used to start phase 1 of the Newcomer Center at South Division. The following teachers, an ESL, English Language Arts, and a mathematics teacher will support the newcomer students towards graduation and provide other specialized support. Funding will be moved within the school operations fund. The administration is available if there's any additional questions. Thank you.
Okay, at this time we will take questions. I see Director Peterson and Director Leonard with their hands up, so just raise your hand if you'd like to make a question, but we will go to Director Peterson first.
First of all, I would like to co-sponsor this if it's okay with Director Garcia.
Director Garcia, do you oblige?
I oblige. I have a feeling that Director Leonard also wanted to.
Okay, well, you've got 3 people. Director Taylor, you put her hand up too. So we will add Director Peterson to that, Madam Secretary.
And I just wanted to state that, what I see at South Division as a real strength of our district, the many cultures, many languages. I remember before COVID going to a graduation ceremony for South Division, and 11 students stood up at the beginning and on the DS and said welcome in 11 different languages. It was a very powerful and multiracial, multilingual program in it. I believe that historically there was a Newcomer Center at South Division several years ago, and it was eliminated, I think, partially due to funding problems. But I was wondering if, just in terms of for the background of our listening audience and the board, if the administration could let us know about the similar center that was mentioned in terms of the 5th through 8th grades, I think, and just to give us sort of a holistic view of what this all means. Again, thank you, Director Garcia, for raising this.
Administration.
Chair Gokungandi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Currently, we have a Newcomer Center at Mackle, and the students that are there and getting the extra support then move on to, or are encouraged to move on to the High School of the Arts. And we have Lorena Gainey here to tell us more about the current center that we have.
Good afternoon, Chair Gokangandi, members of the committee. My name is Lorena Gainey, Director of the Department of Bilingual Multicultural Education. The INC, which is the Newcomer Center, is 5, 6, 7, 8, which they do have a collaborative of a group of 3-4 teachers that are dual licensed to support those students. And they are affiliated with the MHSA teacher, ESL teachers. So those students and those families are always, it's like a feeder pattern going to the MHSA. And they have worked together for years since we have the INC and Mackle when it was first approved. And they have a lot of the content areas, once again, is based on collaboration, is having a schedule, having to know, will the students move between classes or teachers? Are they going to be taught among, because of the level? Are they going to be push in, push out? The staff of the entire school will need to be trained. So we will support the school if that's, this is what we are going to do with the newcomer at South.
Thank you. Director Peterson, any follow-up?
No, thank you very much.
Great, we will go to Director Leonard.
So Director Gokul, you are right. That's what I was going to do. But I obviously I've worked in this area for a bit on my own at Bethune Academy. So, but that was with adults. But I think President Peterson is correct. I believe that if I remember correctly, and Senora Gaina would probably be able to confirm this. The DMMAC used to meet at South Division on a regular basis, and there was a newcomer center there or some type of center there. I remember a list of a host of students from, it had to be 20 different languages that at times used that center. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's highly needed in our community, and that need will not change. That will just grow over time. So it's not like we're going to expend or use this up in any way soon. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Administration?
Chair Gokul, members of the committee, my name is Lorena Yeni, Director of the Department of Bilingual Multicultural Education. As I said, we would support South Division with a newcomer center. We will need the 3 teachers to be preferably dual licensed, since it will definitely they would need that for the newcomer if it is the phase 1. And then we would work with them when in phase 1, is it going to be the students from 9th grade? Or is that going to be newer students coming in? What is that the school is currently doing for the newcomers that we have currently? What is that the school doing right now? Are we going to include those students? So, and then we will have to look also at the data, how many more are we going to be getting to the South Division? So that we have them, we do have them. That we, but we have to also figure out a schedule that will work for them. And how is it going to work? Is it going to be, like I said, pull out, push in? The PD that the teachers all have to support the mission that they will have within the Newcomer Center.
Thank you. I see Director Carr with her hand up.
Yes, I have a question. Well, one, I'd like to ask Director Garcia if I can co-author. I absolutely love this, and I have more clarity now. I'm wondering also if it would make sense to add in the amendment a center for the High School of the Arts, given that feeder population or that feeder model from Mackle and Bethune to High School of the Arts. Is it possible to add a center at the Arts with 3 teachers as well?
I am going to, so Director Carr, we had somebody co-sponsor. Madam Secretary, can you clarify if there can be more than one co-sponsor, or is it truly the definition of co?
Madam Chair, when the amendment is published, there can only be 2 individuals due to quorum purposes, but as many board members as you would like can be added as a sponsor at this level once the amendment is public and being discussed.
Great. So I think we had Director Carr and Director Leonard who wanted to be added, who Director Peterson beat them to the punch. So that is taken care of. And then Director Garcia, would you like to respond to the question about the arts, and then we'll go to the administration for their response after you're done?
Yes, I mean, I think that there's definitely some planning that we need to do in regards to, just strategy. I'm very interested in obviously seeing what the, I guess, like sustainability is. I guess my only, obviously, if we can establish these newcomer centers at all the places that we need them, I think that would be ideal. I guess I would just see what the administration has to say about this and like really thinking about it in a strategic way so that it's sustainable. Because we saw that, you know, South Division, this is not the first time that Newcomer Center has kind of galvanized energy into positions, into the formality of establishing it. I would hate for us to do this or get through certain steps and then all of that get dissolved again. So yeah, administration, you could just share a little bit about what your thoughts are.
Administration.
Chair Gandhi, members of the committee, Lorena Yeni, Director of the Department of Bilingual Multicultural Education. Once again, like Director Garcia stated, it will take some planning. We do have to look at some data, you know, how many refugee students and newcomers we have currently, and what is it, you know, we can also look at the model the INC and MACL is following, you know, with the teachers and what they do, even though that matters is specifically so students get used to the transition going into high school. So that's why we partner with MHSA, which, you know, for a long time we have done that. And South Division, the families, you know, will have to, the families always have options to see where would they want to send their children. So if South Division would be one, of course, you know, they would go to South Division. But again, it will take planning, and we do need the licensed teachers, you know, and with those specialized teachers in order to really make it happen and be successful. We need those specialized teachers as the main ingredient.
Thank you. Director Carr, any follow-up?
Yeah, so what's the sustainability plan in place now that supports the amendment for South Division?
I'm going to ask administration because unless Director Carr, you'd like to comment on it first.
No.
Okay. Or sorry, not Director Carr. I apologize. Director Garcia.
No, we can go with administration first.
Right. Administration.
On the sustainability for the teachers. Well, right now, we do not have teachers for a newcomer at South Division. If we're looking into 50 students, which it would be, we need to recruit those teachers. That's going to be something we need to start working on right away in order to make it happen and make it sustainable, especially if it's phase one. This is why the planning of the center would be is crucial and imperative, because we need, if we're going to start with the ninth graders only, are we going to recruit extra students and are we going to have all of the other students that are newcomers already present, you know, in the building? That would be number one. Are we going to have shelter instructions? Are we going to, you know, is it going to be just shelter instruction, or is it going to be more integrated? Are the teachers going to collaborate and, you know, in order to have these classes and so on? So the sustainability is going to depend on the plan that we have, the teacher training, staff training, and so on. So we need to really need to have those teachers and the plan in place. The plan needs to be there for the newcomer.
Director Carr, any follow-up?
Yeah, so I guess and I'm confused. So High School of the Arts is already serving as a feeder for MACL as well as Bethune, which has a significant population of refugee immigrant students. And so I guess my question is, for clarity, if it is going to be done at South, I think it would make sense to have it that option on the north side as well, given that, again, High School of the Arts is already established as a feeder school for those schools that have the significant populations of students from diverse backgrounds. And so I'm curious, or I guess confused with what's being said. Are we not in support of mirroring this model for the north side, or can someone provide clarity?
Sure. Director Garcia, I see you have your microphone unmuted. Did you mean to do that to make comments?
Yes, just very quickly before we go into administration. So just for clarity, This proposal was based on conversations that I had with, school leadership based on specific needs and responding to the growing immigrant and refugee populations. Just last week I was at the ceremony for dual seal of biliteracy, where I believe that 9 different languages were given in the seal of biliteracy, which is like the most diverse in any school. So that really prompted the idea of like, how do we go back into supporting efforts that had previously been done? So obviously when I put this proposal forth and having conversation with administration, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say hesitance, but it's really proceeding with caution in terms of making sure that as this moves forward, that it's something that falls within the plans for teacher recruitment, that it's something that reflects the student needs for that specific school population. At no time did I have conversations with anyone from Milwaukee High School of the Arts. I did reach out to some folks in the bilingual department, but time just was not enough to connect with them in terms of how do we really align this in a broader strategic level. So I'm not opposed to extending welcome centers, or maybe we're misusing that. I think that, this right here is more of having the teacher support that is needed to meet the needs of the linguistic needs of the student populations in terms of them not falling behind in getting credits. If that's something that we see is needed in the North Side, I think there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't consider that. I do think that we need to think about a strategy for sustainability. So Director Carr, when you mentioned what is the sustainability for the South Side, there clearly has been none, because at one point it came and went, right? So what we're trying to do is make sure that as we move forward, that it's phased in a way where we are thinking about sustainability. But in no way are we I'm not opposing to it being, in other schools. So administration, I don't know if you can add to that.
Administration.
Chair Gandhi and members of the committee, we're looking, as the administration is looking at this, as this programs that at MACO and the programs at Milwaukee High School of Art will continue, just as they are today. And we are looking at this as a phase 1 of South Division, looking at the data, planning it out, doing all of the things that it needs to happen to have a center at South Division High School. So this would be, when we look at the data, this would be an additional opportunity for families, is what the administration is saying.
Director Carr.
Yes, so, and I thank you for the clarification. I think the confusion is the support of a newcomer center and the creation of the 3 positions. And I guess what I was asking, or what I am now going to ask more clearly, is instead of just creating the 3 positions, can we create the 6, in which 3 would be placed at Milwaukee High School of the Arts?
Administration.
Chair Gandhi and members of the committee, I don't think there will be a need for 6, because the center that we have at MACO will stay the same. As what we're doing at High School of the Arts will stay the same. We're looking at this as starting a phase 1 of a new program at South Division High School, a new newcomer center at South Division High School. And we will plan accordingly with hiring staff and making sure that all of that is in place, and making sure, and we're after looking at the data. At that point, we may have to come back to the board with other decisions. But right now, the program that we have is working perfectly, and we don't want to interrupt that. But also we know and see that there's a need at South Division High School, and we're trying to address that need.
Director Carr.
Thank you.
Great. Then I have Director Peterson and Director O'Halloran in the queue, so we will go to Director Peterson.
Yes, I just wanted to restate that I support the 3 at South, and I support continuing the work that's already in place and staffed at Mackle and the High School of the Arts. Thank you.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran?
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear. So we're not trying to disrupt the feeder pattern from Mackle to High School of the Arts is what I'm hearing. We're just trying to better support the students within South Division. And I have spoken with staff at South Division in the past about some of the needs of the English language learners and difficulties sometimes on meeting the graduation requirements. So I do support this. And if upon further review later on down the road, we find that there is additional need within the High School of the Arts, I would absolutely support that. But I just wanted to, chip in my support for this current proposal and continuing that work.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Madam Secretary, was there a motion on the floor? I don't.
Madam Chair, I do not have a motion on this amendment, but what I do have is that relative to amendment number 6, Director Peterson, Director Leonard, Taylor, and Director Carr would like to sponsor.
That is correct. Yes. Okay. What is the pleasure of the committee in regards to this item? Yes, Director Simpson.
I move that we approve this budget amendment as written.
Great. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Simpson's motion to approve the budget amendment number 6 as written in the attachment with the intent as written. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is number 7 by Director Peterson, and that is to add one additional step onto the salary schedules for all classified staff, including but not limited to paraprofessionals, safety aides, social work aides, HCAs, building helpers, and nutrition staff.
Great. Director Peterson, would you like to comment on this amendment?
Yes, I would. And I noticed that it was recommended a couple other groups, interpreters and SNAs, and I think there's one more that the president of the MTA mentioned. The origin of this comes actually from our last meeting when we basically did this for the secretaries, and we included basically a for those who are in the top tier of the schedule, that we'd add one more tier to that. And I thought that it might be wise to do the same for the other low-wage workers, many of them for right now for our district. Now I understand that this would only affect the people in the top, currently at the top. They would then receive their step. They would not receive the bonus that other people have received. I mean, and they also would receive the 4.7% increase. I know that the one question I think we should face is, given the fact that there is going to be this compensation study, should we hold on this or should we proceed with this? My thinking is that I can't imagine a compensation study coming back saying that we're paying too much to these groups, these category of people. Then again, I've never done a compensation study, so I'm not the expert. But so I would recommend we approve this, and I would say that given the multiplicity of job classifications, that I would definitely want the MTA through Meet and Confer to help make sure that this is implemented in a way that is appropriate. So I'd like to make a motion at this point to approve amendment number 7.
And just for clarity of implementation as written. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Oh.
Director Peterson?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I thank you for that clarification, Director Peterson. Okay, so we're going to go to administration first, and then the order of which I saw hands was Director Taylor, Director Carr, Director Herndon, Director Leonard, Director Garcia. So administration, and then we'll start with committee, or then we'll go to committee.
Chair Gokungandi and members of the committee, amendment number 7 would provide additional top step to the classified salary schedule. This would allow staff that are currently on the top step to move one step up. Martha Kreisman will provide some further information. Martha?
Chair Gokungandi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Adding a permanent step to each one of these salary schedules will have a long-range fiscal impact beyond fiscal year 2023. The staff at the top of the range will be receiving a 4.7% salary increase, which will be base building and increase the top range of the salary schedule. If the amendment is approved, the administration would recommend that funding would come from the coronavirus relief funds by reducing the amount for the identified longevity bonus, since when another step is added, these individuals would no longer qualify for the longevity bonus for the staff at the maximum step. And we look forward to your conversation. Thank you.
Okay, we will go to Director Taylor first.
Thank you, Chair Gokungandi, and thank you to Director Carr. It's glad to see, especially guys know my heart is with the paraprofessionals, all of the staff, but being one coming from that and the funding that they get. I guess I wanted to make sure that we have clarification on what was passed, because the amendment seemed to differ a little bit from the administrator's response. So for Director Peterson, were you moving approval of the administrator's response or what the original amendment was? I just need to know what I'll be voting on.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Members of the committee, I have recorded that President Peterson, and please correct me, I just want to make sure I got the motion right. President Peterson is moving approval of the amendment as written.
President, yeah. President Peterson, can you just one more time thumbs up, right? As written, not with the recommendations of administration. Okay, he's going to take a moment. Yeah, okay. Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, can I just, my understanding, yes, I have it as written. That means the classified staff, not limited to those various positions, will have a new step added to their salary schedule. And that means that people at the top step will get a permanent increase in their salary. Then 3 years from now, the people who are 3 years below those top steps will also be able to be eligible for that permanent increase, at that step. I didn't hear the administration being negative towards that. They explained where the money was going to come from. But that's, if there's does that help? Perhaps you can ask the director if that helps.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Chair Gokungandi. It wasn't in response to anybody being negative. It just seemed like it was two different things that was being stated. So I just needed to be clear on what I will be voting on, and if I wanted to co-sponsor it, which would have been the original motion that was approved. So I'm asking also for the sponsors to be a co-sponsor as well.
Do you oblige? He obliges. Great.
Yes.
We will list you as a co-sponsor. Are there any other questions, Director Taylor?
No, thank you, Chair Gokagandi.
Great. Then we will go to
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In the explanation that I heard from President Peterson when he originally introduced the amendment, he named some other groups that were not listed here. Are there additional groups that need to be added to this amendment? Because if it's approved as written, I want to make sure we're capturing exactly the exact intent.
Okay, Madam Secretary, could you read what it's written as? And then can we discuss what might be missing for our listening audience?
The amendment reads that Director Peterson is to add one additional step onto the salary schedule of all classified staff. So if it stops there, you may include all groups, right, under the classified staffing group. But if you continue and say paraprofessional, safety aides, social work aides, HCAs, building helpers, nutrition staff, there may be more groups. And
Right.
so I'm just bringing that up for clarity. Is it for all classified staff?
Okay.
Yes. Can I respond? Yes, it is. And quite frankly, I think the way I wrote it covers that. It says all classified staff, including, but not limited to, and then I make that list because quite frankly, I did not know, just for that same reason that Dr. Mann spoke, I wasn't sure if I have included all the staff, classified staff. And my understanding is that interpreters are considered classified staff, and and that there might be others. Now, if you want us to list them and just use these, we can do that, but I wouldn't want to leave one group out.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I just want to be sure that the intent is clear for the administration's implementation, that it's all classified staff.
Okay, let's go to administration just to make sure that, well, let's get their commentary.
Chair Gokagandi, members of the committee, Adrian Matalani, Chief Human Resources Officer. Just for clarification, I'll provide the employee groups that were included in the costing. So hopefully that can help. So we have paraprofessionals, safety assistants, interpreters, building service helpers 1 and 2. We have food service assistants, children's health assistants, school nurse associates, and social work aides.
Okay, and that is all classified staff. That's what's considered classified staff, correct? Yes, I can miss.
And members of the committee, those are the ones that we included. Yeah.
And
We're Dr. Peterson, go ahead.
Were HCAs included in that as well?
Chair Gokagandi and members of the committee, yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
I appreciate that we've clarified this, and I would agree that we should list them all. And I agree with administration and with the recommendation of Dr. Mann that that's what the amendment should state. It should be listed. Those groups should be listed and should be the ones that have the step increased.
Okay. Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, if I could ask Ms. Matalani to read that list once more, just so that I can be sure that I've captured everyone, because I can tell you tomorrow morning, I will be getting calls on this one right away.
Not a problem. Dr. Mann, the groups are as follows: paraprofessionals, safety assistants, interpreters, building service helpers 1 and 2, food service assistants, children's health assistants, school nurse associates, and social work aides.
Okay.
Chair Gokagandi and members of the committee, I would also add that we should probably add general educational assistance. because we have a few of them as well. That is not on there.
You got a thumbs up from Director Peterson. I think Madam Secretary has them all. She is scribing away. So Director Carr, oh yes, Madam Secretary, are we good?
I believe that I have captured all groups.
Okay, great. Director Carr, wait, where is she go? Oh, right there. Hold on one second. I know that you're next. I saw Director Herndon like waving as she had something urgent to say. Can I just have her address her urgent comment and then come back to you, Director Herndon, if you can make it just really quick so we can get to Director Carr?
Yes, I just wanted clarification on the nutrition staff, if that covered the nutrition drivers as well, because the issue was brought up earlier tonight. I just wanted to make sure and have that clarified. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. We'll when we go to you, Director Carr, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so my question is, this will be beneficial for those only at the top of the pay scale, correct? Or the salary schedule, right?
Director Peterson, would you like to clarify?
Yes. On the direct level, in terms of increase in a step, yes. The other individuals in each of these units will get the bonus. Let me, excuse me, make sure I'm right. The other people will get the 4.7% increase like everyone else. The thing that I think we have to keep in mind is, if we want people to stay and see themselves having a career in MPS in some of these areas, we have to have a higher salary for them to reach on an annual basis. And so in that sense, it is an incentive, I hope, for people to see themselves continuing on in the role. You know, if the administration has a different interpretation, it'd be good to ask them.
Okay, we will go to them next. Administration.
Chair Gokangani and members of the committee, yes, we would agree that if we're going to add a step, it needs to be at the top of the scale. So we support the idea of a step at the top, because that means that the lattice for employees is higher, that they can constantly climb the lattice in wages.
Thank you for that. Director Carr, any follow-up?
No, I definitely support it. I think it's necessary, especially now. I will just say I am definitely concerned about the base, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Great, thank you. We will go to Director Herndon next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You indicated that we would go back when I came up to discuss how do the nutrition drivers fit in this. I just want clarification on that.
So I'm going to go straight to administration, Director Peterson, unless you have, okay, great, administration.
Chair Gokagani, members of the committee, Adrian Malini, Chief Human Resources Officer. We originally included him in the analysis, but there is no nutrition driver that is at the top step, so it wouldn't apply.
Director Herndon.
Thank you.
Great. Any follow-up? You're good? Okay, we're going to go to Director Leonard.
So, yeah, it won't affect drivers directly, but it will. I just want to reiterate that the whole idea of moving that step up is twofold. One, there is no risk of compression, which we had a problem with that some years back that really became problematic in our district. And then secondly, it adds another year of dangling that carrot and saying, well, I'm gonna come back to this. Most of the questions you've answered, I had something else that I wanted to. I guess I'm looking at this more of a comment. To me, this is the most doable, fiduciary wise, is the most doable way to offer an incentive to our workers before we get that cost study. And I think it's important to do the cost study to look at the long term and what we really can and cannot do. But this is something we need now. I just can't imagine losing more people. I can't even imagine what HR is worried about for this summer. It's a challenge. I mean, I talked to a lot of people in the last week alone. So I'm almost like asking to stick around. So, and this is just something that would definitely be a positive step in the right direction.
Great. Administration, would you like to respond to that?
Chair Gokangani and members of the committee, yes, this will truly help out in the recruitment process. This is something that will really work in HR's direction as far as filling staff, but also when we talk about compression, even when we're still moving upward to that next level of employees, and it's going to cause compression there. That's the reason it is truly of utmost importance to make sure that we have this job study done so that we are on the get in the right place. But yes, this is something that will really support the work and really support recruitment efforts and retention.
Okay, thank you. Director Leonard, any follow-up? Okay, I just wanted to clarify, Director Carr and Director Hernandez, do you want to be put back in the queue? No, your hands are still raised, so I just didn't know if you needed another question. If not, okay, great. Then we'll go to Director Garcia.
Yes, I just wanted to ask if I could be the, what is it, third co-sponsor listed?
Yes, unofficially, you may. Okay. Director O'Halloran. You're muted. It's cool.
I lowered my hand. I didn't unmute.
Oh,
Didn't
you lowered
help,
your
did
hand.
it?
I
did
did
one
not.
thing, not the other. That's actually helpful. I did want to point out that I think President Peterson modeled this after the amendment that was previously introduced in the last round, which was based on Director Leonard's in regards to secretaries, and that was the specific ask of the people in the secretaries that with whom we had spoken. So this is directly responding to what people had asked for. So I just wanted to explain why I am supporting this. Do we have any idea? So the longevity bonus would have been one time. This is a going forward based building, so it would be built into being like a recurring benefit, really. Is there any idea around what the difference is between what it would have been under longevity bonus, which would have been one time, versus the longer term, base building? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, administration, do you have the financial analysis of what a step versus the long-term sustainability of this step would be?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Marilini, Chief Human Resources Officer. You're absolutely correct that by now including this as a part of the salary, this is permanent. And so people's salaries, now this becomes the baseline for next year, right? And so it's going to compound moving forward. And like right now, like for instance, for this year, we have 248 para safety interpreters that are at the top step. But now the following year, we're going to have even more added to it, right? As people progress through the salary schedule. So it will continue to compound. And also it is pensionable earnings that people will have that will impact them for retirement. Whereas we did this one-time longevity bonus, it would not go towards their pension and it would not impact their salary as they would go to future years.
Okay, Director O'Halloran, any follow-up? Okay, great. We will go to Director Stevenson.
Thank you. So you mentioned that that the nutrition drivers were not included in this group because no one's at that top yet. Are there other groups that kind of fit that same category where there's just isn't anyone there that we would be covering at this time?
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. There are other employees potentially having to look at when we say classified. There's some administrators that are considered classified employees, some engineers, and a few groups under 1616 potentially that would need to be addressed as well. Dr. Stevenson?
Yeah, so if so down the road, so next year, some of those individuals move up to the top level of their pay scale, we would have to then kind of add that into part of what the cost of this is, correct?
Administration. Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, yes, that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Are there any more questions? Okay, well, there is a motion on the floor. And so, Madam Secretary, would you read the motion again, just because there's been a lot of discussion, and then we can call the roll?
So noted. Amendment number 7, that was moving approval is President Peterson. And this motion is co-sponsored by Directors Taylor and Garcia. Okay, on President Peterson's motion to approve amendment number 7, which is to add one additional step onto the salary schedule for all classified staff, including but not limited to paraprofessionals, safety aides, interpreters, school social work aides, HCAs, building service helpers 1 and 2, nutrition staff, school nurse associates, food service assistants, and general assistants.
Okay, let's call the roll.
That is the list that I have on the motion as read into the record. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Great. Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is amendment number 8 by Director Carr, and that is to offer a certified nursing assistant and community-based residential facility training class at North Division for youth 16 years of age and older at no cost to the student, and that NPS students receive an elective credit for course completion.
Director Carr, would you like to comment on the amendment?
No, I guess what I'll say is, given the expansion or the growing need for more CNAs and CBRF certified employees or workers, I think that there's an opportunity to provide training to our students 16 years of age and older. I know that we currently have some programs in place to service students, but I was under the impression that it was servicing students, I think 18 and older, which is kind of like that transitional phase. And so I wanted to open it up also to be a resource and an opportunity for students at alternative schools. And so, yeah, this is it. And I can answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, administration, would you like to comment?
Yes, Chair Gokul Gandhi and members of the committee, amendment number 8 would provide an after-school opportunity for certified nursing assistant education with the possibility of an elective credit. The district is currently providing the certified nursing assistant courses at 4 high schools during the day program: Hamilton High School, Madison High School, North Division High School, and South Division High School. This will provide additional opportunities at North Division for MPS students. Martha Kreisman will provide us some additional information.
Chair Gandhi, and members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Administration recommends using ESSER funding to pilot this after-school offering. Using extension funds could be an option for the future, but while we have ESSER funding available and set aside for extracurricular engagement, it would be a good funding source. Using ESSER, participation would be limited to MPS students. We would open it up for MPS students at non-instrumentality charter and partnership schools too.
Thank you. We will go for a round of questions. I see Director Carr. Are there any other questions? Well, raise your hand. We'll go to Director Carr first.
I move approval of the amendment as written.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I saw Director Hernandez.
Madam Chair, just for clarity, the administration just offered a different funding source. So is this approval with the funding sources outlined by the administration or as written?
Sorry, yes. As the administration's recommendation for the funding source.
So noted. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. So I have Director Herndon and then Director Peterson and Director Garcia. So Director Herndon, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted clarification on it in terms of the students that are being actually served by the current programs, and would this be duplication in some way? I know there was differentiation between what goes on inside the school day during regular hours versus after hours.
Okay, Director Carr, would you like to answer that, or would you like me to go to administration?
I'll just say that this would be an opportunity for students across the district and all schools to access this resource during the day, which already exists, but also after school. But the administration can speak in more detail.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Herndon. Yes, the program at North Division that will start in the fall. We're going to be contracting with Gateway Technical College to provide the instruction. And that would be the thought to have this, if we were to do this in the evening or after school, our first choice would be to go with Gateway Technical College as well. MATC does not have the instructors to be able to offer this, but it would be the same program. But it would be able to be offered to additional schools around the district. There are other options for students as well. We contract with Quality Healthcare Options to provide CNA services either during the day or during the week or on the weekends and all throughout the year. So in the summer, there's also a Start College Now program that students could take the CNA course. And there's a College Connections program as well that's run out of the College and Career Readiness Department that students would have an opportunity to earn it there as well.
Director Herndon, any follow-up?
Let's see, my question is simply to make sure now that all of the students would obtain college credit if they did it during the day or the evening?
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Herndon. If it's offered by Gateway Technical College, they will earn not only the high school credit, but they'll earn 2 college credits as well.
Right.
The students who do it through Quality Healthcare Options in the evening or on the weekends do not earn high school credit for that, but they get the certificate.
Okay,
The students
that's
that do
the
it other ways. Yeah.
Thank you. That's the clarification that I wanted to make, that the students should be aware of if they have intentions of going into that in college, somewhere in the medical field, that they should be aware that the services or the contract with Gateway provides those additional credits. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will move to Director Peterson.
Yeah, my question is a follow-up sort of, I see the various things that are now offered. I was various courses and times, and I was wondering if the administration could report to us on the enrollment in some of those classes and see if there's a need, an obvious need. And then I also think my understanding is that the proposal is to have a class after school at North Division. Other students would have to come to North Division, obviously, for that class, if I'm not mistaken. It's not like we're adding additional classes at those other schools after school. It's just at North Division. Those are some of the things I'd like clarified.
Okay, administration.
Chair Gokagandhi, Director Peterson, the new offerings at North Division, South Division, Hamilton, and James Madison will start with a maximum of 10 students at each school in the fall, so 40 students total. And in the spring, we are likely to offer 2 or 3 additional sections at the schools. Some of the schools don't have their students identified yet for spring of 2023, but we'll offer as many as the students can support. Based on the enrollment at those schools, if we can get 10 more students for the spring, then we'll offer those. We anticipate 60 to 70 next year at those 4 schools.
Okay, Director Peterson, any follow-up?
I'm just curious. So if we announce this would be in a contract with Gateway, it sounds like, for after school at North, which is fine. And what would be our expectation in terms of the enrollment in an after school program? I'm just curious. I see that there's a $300,000 cost to this, and I was just curious if there was going to be a goal or a limit for such a class.
Administration.
Gandhi, Director Peterson, that limit would stay at 10 for each section. So if there were 2 sections offered, one in fall and one in spring, then that number would be 20 additional students at North Division in the evening.
Thank you.
Director Peterson, any follow-up?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Then we will go to Director Garcia and Director Simpson. I have added you to the queue. And Director Carr, did you want me to re-add you to the queue? Okay, great. Go ahead, Director Garcia.
All of my questions were answered, so I just wanted to take a vote, move to vote.
Okay, we have one more person in the queue for discussion, so we will go to Director Simpson and then we can call the vote.
Thank you. My only question is the funds in the administration's recommendation is, from the ESSER funding and extracurricular activities. Are those funds currently earmarked for anything in particular? I mean, I know sometimes, we get to the end of these budget discussions and we find out, oh, that funding that was going to be for this is now taken away to fund something else. I just wanted clarity if that was earmarked yet for something specific.
Administration.
Chair Gandhi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. I did talk with the Recreation Department to find out if this was passed, if this would be possible out of the ESSER funding, and they agreed that it could be. While there is money earmarked for extracurricular, they've been doing a lot of planning around it this year, so that funding hasn't been spent yet. And while they have a lot of plans ready to go for next year, they assured me that they would have enough to fund this project.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Director Simpson? Okay, well, there was a motion to call the vote. Do we need a second? No? Okay. So,
Madam Chair, just for clarity, because I know in this situation, if there was an objection, we would need a vote called to call the question before calling the question. But at this point, discussion has ended. And so at this point, it's appropriate to call the vote.
okay, great. Well, any last takers for discussion? Okay, go ahead and call the roll.
On Director Carr's motion, to move approval of amendment number 8, and that is to offer a certified nursing assistant and community-based residential facility training class at North Division for youth 16 years of age and older at no cost to the student, and that the MPS students receive an elective credit for course completion. And that is by Director Carr. And that amendment is being approved with the funding source as outlined by the administration. On the motion, as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes. Madam Chair, I believe you're.
I am fully on mute. Okay.
That's okay.
Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is amendment number 9 by Director Carr, and that is to support paraprofessional retention by increasing the minimum salary of 6-hour pairs to $23,000 per year and 8-hour pairs with at least 3 years of experience to $30,000 per year.
Director Carr, would you like to comment on your amendment?
Yes, I am probably going to be saying this for the next couple amendments, but I am just trying to keep up with the national trends relative to compensation and increasing compensation for individuals in the field of education. I'm going to keep saying it. Or many of us may know, if not all, Target has discussed increasing their minimum wage to now $24 an hour. And while the complexities of those positions are not clearly stated, I think when we're talking about education and the duties and responsibilities of our paraprofessionals and other educational faculty and staff, I think it is time that we move to address the base pay. I know that there is a compensation study in the works. And I guess my concern with that, while I am totally in support of it, the concern is the lack of urgency. And I'm wondering if the proposal or the amendment does not pass tonight, is there something that can be done to address those on the bottom part or base level of the salary scale? So yeah, if we can't agree with this one, I just ask that we make an amendment or agree to do something to address those that are at the beginning of the salary schedules. But yeah, I move for approval.
Administration.
Gandhi and members of the committee, amendment number 9 targets increase in the minimum salary for paras and paras with 3 years of experience. The proposal would attract and retain paras. Would ask Martha Kreisman to provide some additional comments.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The amendment would entail revising the paraprofessional salary schedule. Once the beginning end of the salary schedule is revised, as is the case, the first step and the third step, it would affect all of the steps after those, which would also need to be revised. These decisions would have a long-term impact. The administration recommends waiting until after the compensation consultant conducts a salary schedule study to revise salary schedules. However, until then, if the board wants to act on this amendment, the administration recommends the board provide a one-time bonus by setting aside $500,000 from ESSER 3 funds.
Thank you. Are there questions on this amendment? Okay, I see Director Carr and then Director Garcia and then Director Leonard and then Director Peterson. So that is the order I have. So Director Carr, go ahead.
Yes, so question to the administration. with the $500,000 being allotted to support bonuses for paras, what is the breakdown of that amount? Because I can support that to get us through to the compensation study. But my concern with that is if we provide a small bonus after the taxes and everything else that's taken out, I'm not confident that that would be enough to take care of our paraprofessionals who are again at the base, the bottom of the salary scale. So what would the breakdown of the bonuses be for each para?
Administration.
Chair Gokagandi and members of the committee, the team is doing the math at this particular time, and Adria Maddaleni will be providing an answer to you very briefly. If we could maybe go on to.
Is that okay, Director Carr? Can we come back to you? Okay. Did you have any follow-up, or is that it? Did you have any follow-up, or are you good? You're good?
We could.
Yeah, that's
Chair
fine.
Gokagandi.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adria Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer, if the 500,000 was set aside and was divided amongst all the paras that we currently have in the district, that would bring it to $377 each.
Dr. Carr, any follow-up?
I would be willing to, I don't know, Madam Chair, correct me if I'm not getting this right. I think if we can agree on a higher bonus amount, I would be willing to approve or support the administration's recommendation if the bonus amount can be higher, because that's not enough.
So, okay, so I'm going to ask Madam Secretary to just help step in here. So what I'm hearing you say, Director Carr, is you would adopt administration's recommendation, but the number that you would want would be higher, and that would substitute the current budget amendment that you have. So no, we are no longer talking about raising the base salary. We are talking about, oh yes, okay, see, this is why I should have just let you talk first. Thank you,
Madam Chair, members of the committee, the discussion right now is on Director Carr's motion to approve amendment number 9 as written.
Okay, so.
And I would like to also say that, you know, she's offering additional information about possible considerations, but the motion is before you. And that is what the discussion should be centered on.
Okay, great. I apologize.
Okay, no problem.
We are all learning together. Okay, so Dr. Carr, was that clear about we have to discuss this amendment as written because that is the motion that you have on the table right now?
I think so. Yeah. So I can't amend with I recommend. Okay. Yep. So then I move approval of the the amendment as written.
So you have the motion on the table right now. We have some discussion that we have to get through, and then we will call the roll. Are we good? Cool. We're going to go to Director Garcia.
Yes. So yeah, my question was very similar in terms of hearing from the administration what the one-time bonus would look like, and I think we have answer on that. I guess my other question, you know, we keep referring to the PACE study item that we need to do in order to really look at longer-term sustainability and really holistic approach to what these steps and changes in salary could be. And I know that in a previous item, we talked about preliminary timelines, but is there any way that we can just, I don't know, walk away from today having a more clear idea as to when we can expect to begin that process? I know that there's maybe like an RFP that needs to go out for the company that would be doing this. Like, I just want to walk away with a little bit more tangible so we can start thinking about, like, are we going to have answers by the end of this year, by the start of 2023? Are we looking longer timelines? So if administration can just help me kind of bring this idea into a more, I guess, tangible item, that would be great.
Yep, administration.
Chair Gokul-Gandhi, member of the committee, Adrian Matalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. Currently working with procurement, because we have procurement rules to follow in order to bring forward a contract. We're hopeful we could have something for June, but that has to be finalized yet. Okay, Director Garcia.
All right, so then can we just have like a quick overview as to maybe what the anticipated process, granted it might change depending on what these experts want to do. But what are we targeting as far as, I don't know, like nuggets of information that we can use to help inform, future decisions related to pay scales?
Administration. Chair Gokul-Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Matalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. The plan as outlined is we would identify some employee groups to start out with. I think we've indicated we're looking at some of our classified groups that we've experienced a lot of turnover with. The compensation consultant will do a variety of things. One, they will do a survey of those employees to get feedback, possible focus groups. Then they do an external analysis, a comparative to where our salary schedules match with them and what the market is. The consultant that I'm looking at bringing forward a contract with does have significant experience with school districts and larger urban school districts. So they understand the breadth and the positions that are involved. So that will be helpful. So that's a general outline of the process and how it'll work moving forward, but there will be a component where employees will be involved in providing some data around their job duties and their experiences.
Excellent, thank you.
Any follow-up, Director Garcia? Great, we will move to Director Leonard.
Okay, so my first concern is that on the amendment as it's written, I guess my question is that would create a significant form of compression, actually in two areas, if I'm not mistaken. But that's my first question, and that really concerns me. I'm also have to agree with Director Carr though on the lack of urgency. I feel that. I'm glad we're talking about moving towards getting this started, but I guess I know that our employees are going to want a very, very straightforward answer as to how long this should take. That's what they're going to be asking me, and that'll probably start as early as tomorrow morning. I'll be honest. So I wish I could give them more than, well, we're going to start something in June. Da, 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 da. I don't want to throw that at them. So anyway, my first question is on compression. Mm-hmm. What kind of compression would this cause?
Administration.
Chair Gokul-Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Matalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. With the amendment as written, with the intent, there would be some compression if you focus only on raising the first year paras and then the third year, because you have individuals, then they're at the second, third, and fourth step, but then will be leapfrogged, right? So then you're going to have to adjust all of the other steps in the salary schedule, so no one experiences that, right? So that's the biggest concern when you just identify certain steps to move, because you're going to have people that then will fall behind and they'll get leapfrogged over. So that will be a concern. And also, we do have a variety of hours for paras. Like we have paras that are 6 hours, 6.5, 7, 7.5, and 8 hours. So they all have the same hourly rate, and that's how their salaries are identified. All paras have the same hourly rate. If they're all on step one, regardless of if you're 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, or 8, you all have the same base hourly rate, and your just annual salary is different based on the number of hours that you work. So you have to worry about those other groups there, the 6.5, 7, and 7.5 hour paras that wouldn't be addressed.
Okay, Director Leonard.
Yeah, that's a concern for me. That makes it very difficult for me to agree with this amendment. That's just something that I think would cause be more problematic than it's worth the effort we're trying to do. And then I guess you answered my question beyond that, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Director Peterson.
Thank you. I suggest that we vote this down for some of the reasons that were explained. One, the compression problems. Two, it's basically going to force us to go off an hourly pay scale if we adopt this per se, because right now, as was explained, people make the same hourly rate at their certain step. And if it's 6 hours, it's multiplied by 6, or 6.5, it's multiplied by 6.5, et cetera. The other thing is that I've always seen paras and safeties to be of the same cloth, so to speak. And I don't think it's wise to support a change for them and not for the safeties, for the paras. And finally, I just want to caution and why I think while things are urgent, it's even going to be more urgent next year when we find out that the state legislature will refuse to give us a cost of living increase for our annual student allotments, if they even give allotments anymore. Who knows what they'll do. I have no confidence in them. And I think our primary responsibility has to be the continuation of the Milwaukee Public Schools. And quite frankly, given the actions of the state legislature, those could be could be a serious danger. And so I think we should be cautious in terms of adding additional base pay to so many employees at this point. And I believe that perhaps we'll be able to do something in October, but certainly the next budget round, we'd have a lot better rationale and evidence given the completion of a compensation study. So I encourage people to vote this down.
Thank you. We are going to go to Director Simpson.
Thank you. Just concerns, I think that when we talk about salaries and all of that, it's very complicated and lots of ramifications happen that we don't intend. I think it also jumps over that idea to meet and confer. I think it's good to have more voices as part of this. And also I'm unclear on where if this were to pass, where the money would come from. It just says, reduce other areas, which, like I said previously, sometimes we get at the end of these discussions and it's sort of just like takes your breath away to realize that what you did all of a sudden took away funds from other programs that are, really valuable. So, I look forward to the compensation study, and I just I wanted you to know that those are my reasons for not being able to support it at this time.
Okay, thank you. Director Carr, was your hand up for another comment? Okay, go ahead.
So I have two questions. One, my first one is, what if the proposed funding by the administration could be used to increase the hourly rate? What would be the calculation of that?
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Marilani, Chief Human Resources Officer, hoping you can provide some clarity. Director Carr, we're saying increasing the hourly rate and as it would apply for all the paras across the board or certain paras?
All paras across the board. What would be the breakdown of that?
So wouldn't that be a one-time increase of the 327 administration?
Chair Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Maleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, it will be same around the $300 number that we indicated. But also understand, like, when you talk about increasing someone's hourly rates, you know, that will be permanent. If you change someone's hourly rate versus like a one-time bonus or something of that nature.
Okay. All right. And then my second question, would it, or I guess this is for Madam Chair, can I change my, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in Robert's rule. Can I make a motion to adopt the administration's recommendation for the bonus that will at least get us to the study?
I am just going to hand it over to Madam Secretary because the last
I'm sorry.
I was very
skipping over.
Madam Secretary.
Okay. Could you please ask the question once more?
So is it too late, or can I change my motion to adopt the administration's recommendation? Because I do acknowledge the complexities of this. It's not as simple as just bumping up those at the bottom and avoiding the compression. I understand all of that. I guess I'm just trying to act on the urgency. And I also realized too that it was not as complicated with the other groups or the other amendments that were passed tonight. And so I just want to, if nothing else, make a small win for the paras and do something in understanding that this won't pass. And so can I make a motion to approve the administration's recommendation with the $500,000 for bonuses?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Director Carr, if I'm understanding you correctly, your motion is to approve the amendment with the intent and funding source as recommended by the administration.
Yes. Yes.
Is that correct? The and I just want, Madam Chair, if you could get clarity. Is the administration recommending the bonus as described by Director Carr?
Administration, could you please help with some clarification?
Kangandi, members of the committee, if the board decides to act on this amendment, our recommendation was a one-time bonus by setting aside $500,000 from ESSER 3 funds.
Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm just reading over the amendment, and what it looks like is the intent is to support paraprofessional retention. And so with that intent, if I'm understanding correctly, the amendment would then read, given what the administration just said, is that it would be Director Carr moving approval to support paraprofessional retention by approval of a one-time bonus within as recommended by the administration.
Is that correct, Director Carr?
Yes.
Okay, yes, Madam Secretary. Okay.
If you could get clarity from the administration, just so that.
Yes. Administration.
Kangandi, members of the committee, that is correct, a one-time bonus.
Okay. Madam Secretary.
Okay, so the motion that, and I know you have others in the queue to speak, the way that I'm understanding it If I'm understanding Director Carr's question and the administration's recommendation, the motion would read, Director Carr moves approval of amendment number 9, which is to support paraprofessional retention with a one-time bonus as recommended by the administration.
Okay, we are gonna go to Director President Peterson, and then we're gonna see if there's any other discussion.
Yeah, I have several things I want to ask. First of all, there was a motion on the floor to approve the original. So doesn't the maker of that motion have to withdraw that motion before we can add a second motion to the discussion?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, the motion was amended prior to the vote. So just
So
as with our regular.
So this is an amendment to the motion then, you're saying?
Yeah, that would be correct, right, Madam Secretary?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that is my understanding. Director Carr can clarify.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So at this point, Madam Chair, at this point, the discussion would be around the amendment.
Okay.
Right, which would be the approval of amendment number 9, which is to support paraprofessional retention with a one-time bonus as recommended by the administration.
Okay, so would committee members wish to make comments on the amended motion?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Director Peterson, go ahead.
So my concern is that, again, that this doesn't include the safeties. It is singling out one group in the classified areas versus the many. And I'm not sure if this motion means that what we passed before, which is the those paraprofessionals who are at the top of their salary schedule would receive both the this incentive and then also their base pay increase. At this point, I'm as much as I believe that we should that our employees need to be paid more. I think we should wait for the compensation study and do this right. I can imagine many members of the staff of the Milwaukee Public Schools that are classified who are not in paraprofessionals feeling that they were left out. So this is sort of a slippery slope. I recommend we vote against it.
Okay, administration.
Chair O'Hal, Chair Gokangande, and members of the committee. The administration have basically laid out our concerns and shared with us our recommendation. So that's where we are at this point.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go, Director Peterson, any follow-up?
No.
Okay, great. We are going to go to Director Simpson.
Thank you. So Director Peterson kind of hit on what I wanted to say, but just as an example, when we did pay, I was contacted after the vote by individual groups who felt like they should also be included in hazard pay. So I think that's where, I'm struggling because, kind of like trying to get one group and not the other. I know we're going to miss people, and then they will be rightly so, they will feel slighted. So that's my concern with this, as how it's stated now in the motion.
Okay, thank you, Director Simpson. We're going to go to Director Garcia. You're muted.
I'm sorry. Just point of clarification. So for the way that, for the one-time bonus, we're still looking at this bonus going to the base salaried paraprofessionals, or is this for all paraprofessionals?
Director Carr, could you clarify?
I guess that would be a question for administration, given that that was their recommendation.
Yes. Okay, administration.
Chair Gokul members of the committee, Adrian Maleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. The idea is that all paras would receive it. Okay, Director Garcia.
Okay. And okay, so this is for you, Director Carr. I know that your intent was to do some base building for the specific positions. With that, would the administration have a figure as to how, like, if we were just to target the lower paid paraprofessionals, what would that, I guess, like bonus look like? I know that when we looked at, what was it, $377? So I'm assuming that's for all of them. Would that change? How would that change if we're looking at just like the, I guess, entry level paras?
So I think you are asking Director Carr's opinion if we could possibly shift to that classification, and then for the actual number value, we'll have to go to administration. So Director Carr, would you like to answer first?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think if we're talking about a bonus of this amount, I think it's fair given that the majority of the, or all of the paras, and correct me, administration, if I'm wrong, all of them fall under say the $24 an hour that I referenced earlier. And so I would be curious to know what the numbers would be or the breakdown of the cost. But I would just say, given that all of them are underpaid and operating in dual capacities, specifically paras being parent coordinators and many other roles that they have to operate within, I would say everyone. But if the administration can provide a breakdown of what that would be, and I guess I'm asking a question of clarification for Director Garcia. Are you suggesting that if the $500,000 were applied to those that are at the bottom of the pay scale, would it be more of a bonus? Is that what you're asking or trying to figure out?
I see her nodding her head.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to know the numbers, the breakdown. And yeah, and I'm open to that. I just want to take care of those who are day to day with our children, because those are the ones that we need in order to continue with prevailing academically or helping our students prevail academically and beyond. And I know that we're losing them. And so what would be the breakdown, administration?
Yep, administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Maleni, Chief Human Resources Officer, working on pulling data exactly how many paras we have at the first step, second step, and third step of the salary schedule. But I can confirm that currently the top hourly rate for a para is $22.80.
Okay, Director Garcia, any follow-up there? Okay, we're going to go to Director Hernan. I just want to clarify. I see Director Stevenson, did you re-raise your hand to be in queue? Okay, Director Peterson, did you re-raise your hand to be in the queue? You did. Okay, great. So you can go after Director Hernan.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to wait. I thought they were going to answer this as well. We're in this predicament that if we do salary changes, then that's long-term, forever and ever and ever. And we aren't in a position to do that. So I was listening for administration to give us the number of paras that were at the lowest level of pay. Then I heard that all of them were at the lowest level, or that's what it sounded like to me. So I wanted clarification so that I can get specifics as to how many paras are impacted by this, or what the objective is for impact. How many paras are impacted by that? And then specifically the amount of the bonus in relation to that. Thank you.
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Madelini, Chief Human Resources Officer. When we initially looked at the $500,000 bonus, we took into account all paras in the district, and currently we have 1,325 paras in the district. Like I said, we're working on trying to get the exact on which ones, how many are at the first step.
Okay, Director Herndon.
That was 1,325. Did I hear that correctly? Okay.
Gokul Gandhi, yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then that means now we're looking at the $500,000 figure to come from ESSER funds. Is that correct? And is the objective then to take the $500,000 that's the pot of money and split it up between the 1,325 paras?
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Herndon, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Yes, that was the administration recommendation to set aside 500,000, and it would be for all of the paras, which the estimate is there's 1,325 paras at this time.
Chair Chair Gokul Gandhi, if you don't mind, I've got some more information. We currently have 108 paras that are at the first step of the salary schedule.
Great. Director Herndon. Okay, wonderful. We will move to Director Peterson.
Yeah, three things. One, I think this conversation is proof that we really need to wait for a compensation study. We'd be much more informed about how to proceed. Secondly, I think we're getting into an area where I think it'd be best to meet and confer with the representatives of these paras and figure it out so that it doesn't appear that we're favoring a certain group, just paras, or a certain group, subgroup within the paras, and not other classified employee groups. I continue to encourage my colleagues to vote this down. I think we'll get a lot of phone calls from a lot of people the way the way this is going.
Thank you. We're going to move to Director Taylor.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi, and what a very lively conversation. I feel like we have been on and off the topic so much. I just need a better understanding once again of where we at, and this is what I thought we were at. We were moving with an amendment to approve the administration's recommendation of the $500,000 to split it up between the 1,300 and something paras, and that will be a bonus, or I'm not saying a step, I hope that was correct if I heard it right, of $327, but we will also be having some type of step study. Is that the motion or amended motion on the floor?
Director Taylor, the amended motion on the floor is to use the $500,000 to give a one-time bonus to the 1,000 paras at $377. Is that correct for each para?
Absolutely, and that will also include with this amendment some type of study going forward in the future. Is that correct?
No. So we are already doing the compensation study. So this is just solely for the one-time bonus.
Yeah, it came up like 10 times, and I just wanted to make sure that was not where we're on. I am so ready to call the question. I am in agreement because we have the compensation study coming, that to give $377 to these individuals that I know work very hard. I used to be one of them. To me, will not take them off of any steps, will be in addition to helping them. We have seen through this pandemic how they had to cover classrooms. They were giving extra hours that they had to work. It's $377. We are saying we have the funding there. We are still going forward with the compensation study. I guess I don't think we need another hour. I think most people know how they're going to vote, so I want to call the question.
Okay, Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, I see 3 hands raised. And so are people in the queue to speak or
Oh, sorry.
going down? Hang on.
Yes, I think the only person whose hand was a question of re-raising was Director Carr. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one point. It was stated earlier that we're not in a position to give base building raises. And then I just questioned, why are we doing a study then if we're not in that position now? Because the fact of the matter is the money, the COVID relief dollars or ESSER dollars, however we want to frame it, they're going to eventually run out. And so I do want to put that out there. If we're not in a position now, I don't know that we'll be in a position a year from now. And I'm totally with Director Taylor. Let's call a vote.
Okay, Madam Secretary.
On Director Carr's motion, and please correct me if I don't have it correct, which is to move approval of amendment number 9 to support paraprofessional retention with a one-time bonus as recommended by the administration is it $377?
Is it 327 or 377? Administration.
Just say 500,000.
Okay, we can just say 500,000. Perhaps we don't need to clarify. Thank you, Director O'Halloran.
On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Nay.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Nay.
Director Seamson.
No.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 3 noes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is amendment number 10 by Director Carr, and that is to support secretaries' retention by increasing the minimum salary of 10-month secretaries to $29,000 per year and 12-month secretaries with at least 3 years of experience to $35,000 per year.
Director Carr, would you like to comment on the amendment?
Pretty much the same narrative. Compensation studies in the work. I move approval of the amendment.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you. We can't see you.
We cannot hear you now.
Okay. How about now?
Yes, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Madam Secretary, would it be appropriate for me to assume the gavel and keep the meeting moving while connection is restored?
1 second. Madam Chair. There she is.
Oh, I am very sorry, everybody, about that technical.
It's okay.
Okay, where were we? Administration.
Gandhi and members of the committee, Amendment 10 would increase the minimum salary for clerical staff and clerical staff with 3 years experience. I'm going to ask Martha Kreisman to provide some additional information. Martha.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The amendment would entail revising the clerical salary schedule. Again, once the beginning of the salary schedule is revised, it has a ripple effect of having to revise all the other steps. These decisions would have a long-term impact. The administration recommends waiting until after the compensation consultant conducts the salary schedule study to revise the salary schedules. However, until then, if the board wants to act on this amendment, the administration recommends the board provides a one-time bonus by setting aside $200,000 in ESSER 3 funds.
Thank you. We will now have a comment. So I'm going to go to Director O'Halloran. Do you want to make a comment on the amendment, Director Carr? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. I apologize. I actually meant to withdraw this one because of the budget amendment last week. I apologize. Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to withdraw the amendment.
Madam Secretary.
So noted. Okay.
Okay, Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is amendment number 11 by Director Carr, and that is to support teacher recruitment by implementing a permanent teacher salary minimum of $50,000 with a minimum of $55,000 for teachers with at least 3 years of licensed experience.
Thank you, Director Carr.
Yes, so this is the big one, and I know the conversations are pretty much going to go as previous ones. The motivation behind this, as we know, or as I don't want to assume that everyone knows. So Walmart just released that their entry-level management positions will be offering a starting pay of $210,000. Now, in an ideal world, of course, we'd love to pay our educators more, but to speak to the urgency mentioned earlier, and I will reiterate that I am understanding we're going through the process of identifying an entity or someone to facilitate or implement a compensation study. However, this is the more urgent area that I feel requires our immediate attention. I know that this will create a shift in the compensation schedule or salary schedule, but I really think something needs to be done to increase our base level, entry level pay for educators, especially given the efforts and the investments made in the recruitment as well as the retention of teachers. And I know specifically a lot of our permanent teachers, those that do not have their teaching certification and that are still kind of going through the process through alternative teaching programs, they are, I believe, on average making about $44,000. And if we're looking at even Target's increase in their minimum wage, $24 an hour is landing Target employees at $49,000 a year. And so the motivation behind is to really catch up with the labor market and follow the trends of others. There was also an article in the New York Times that I have up where it shows other districts are or have increased their teacher compensation to salaries of the amounts of I think a minimum of $51,000. And so I honestly don't know that a teaching or a compensation study would be needed to support efforts to increase the pay for our teachers, specifically our base pay for entry-level teachers or teachers that are coming in that's new. And so I don't know if this is the way to go about increasing it, because again, I understand the salary schedule being the broader issue in this way. But I think that this is like, it should be a non-negotiable and a common sense effort made on our end. We cannot continue in the way that we're doing. And we really have to put some urgency behind compensating our teachers at an equitable rate. And I think $50,000 to start is beyond fair. It's actually not enough. So with that being said, I won't say any more. I will move approval of the amendment as written.
Administration.
Chair Gulgandani and members of the committee, Amendment 11 would increase the minimum salary for permit teachers and permit teachers with 3 years of experience. The proposal would be to attract permit teachers. I would ask Martha Kreisman to provide some additional information. Martha.
The amendment would entail revising the permit teacher salary schedule. Once the salary schedule is revised, it would impact the teacher salary schedule. Otherwise, we would have teachers on a permit making more at the same level of experience than a certified teacher. These decisions would be costly and have a long-term impact. The administration recommends waiting until after the compensation consultant conducts the salary schedule study to revise the salary schedules. However, until then, if the board wants to act on this amendment, the administration recommends the board provide a one-time bonus for permit teachers in hard-to-fill positions by setting aside $100,000 in ESSER 3 funds.
Okay, thank you. We will go to questions. I have Director Peterson and then Director Taylor.
Yes, I encourage people to not support this. I definitely believe teachers should be paid more. I think that it's irresponsible, however, to do it in this way because it forces us to bounce up the entire teacher salary schedule without any input from the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association, and with a possible cost of, according to the administration, $18.7 million, which would be part of the non-permanent schedule for next year. And I just want to restate again that while it might be common sense that teachers are paid low, which I agree, it's also common sense if you're from Wisconsin to recognize that the Wisconsin state legislature will very likely not support adequate funding for the Milwaukee public schools, or probably any public schools, in the coming biennium budget. And we'll be in a very difficult place next year and the following year, when we obviously would have to deal with the issue of cost of living, which is probably going to be similar to this year, and then an extra $18.7 million for the next several years, for forever. I just think it would be irresponsible as the people in charge of the long-term survival and thriving of our district to pass this motion.
Okay, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. While I do support us compensating our educators, because I'm gonna call them all that, but we're talking about our permanent teachers, I guess I would have to pause when they will be paid more starting off than our certified teachers. And so for this one, I wouldn't be able to vote aye, but I would vote aye if it was amended to the administration's recommendation, like we did within the paras, for that one-time bonus as we are continuing on with the compensation study.
Thank you. Director Herndon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, for one, have a real problem with this for a couple of reasons. For one, much like Director Taylor said, that's where my head was as well, where you're putting the salary of permit teachers above those that are already certified and have their permits. The other thing, in terms of long-term ability to pay, we can sit here all night and pretend like there's a never-ending pot of gold that we're spending and saying, let's give some money over here and a few $100,000 over there, but that's not realistic for a number of reasons. And the biggest reason is the fact that the state of Wisconsin legislature does not like to fund public schools, and especially Milwaukee public schools. So we have to be cognizant of that. Number two is this biennium, they did not increase per pupil funding, and that's the elephant in the room. For 2 years, the state of Wisconsin cut the funding. or should I say, they didn't cut it, they provided zero. That is the fact. So what we're looking at, we can pretend like, all is well. We all would love to pay our teachers more. There are districts that are far more capable to do exactly that. It doesn't happen to be Milwaukee Public Schools. So I would have to vote against this at this point because of those very reasons. Once the ESSER funding is gone, that's it. And that's where we're going to be in a position where we were before COVID hit, where we were looking at having to cut budgets because we were basically underwater budget wise. So that's my fault. I have to vote against it.
Thank you. Then we have Director Carr.
I just want to say this. Yes, state legislation is an issue, but I also think we're giving them too much credit. We have to acknowledge the declining enrollment. We have to acknowledge the academic achievement. We have to acknowledge the vacancy of our buildings, the underutilization of our buildings, and then attribute all of those things to why the state legislation is coming after us. I understand, again, the complexities of increasing the permit teacher base wage or base salaries. However, what we're seeing right now is teachers and students leaving in the masses, and we have to ask ourselves why. And I don't think that we're really having or engaging in that discussion. And I also realize that you all are not ready to have that discussion. I was not anticipating this passing. I just want for people to understand that the conversations are being had, and that there is urgency, if nothing else on my part, to address the low compensation for our educators. They're leaving because of compensation as well as culture and climate. And of all of the money that we've gotten over the course of these years, it's not helping us. We're seeing the enrollment steadily declining or consistently declining and teachers leaving. And so I think the bigger picture is not necessarily what they're doing right now. It's what we're not doing. And so again, I move approval of the amendment. I think $100,000 stretched across all permit teachers, that's a smack in their faces. And when I'm thinking about all of the funding that we've received and the votes that have been made on this floor or virtual floor, we have not really prioritized those that are in front of our children. And that is extremely problematic. And so vote it down, and we can continue with our compensation study. But the fact of the matter is we're sending a bigger message to those who we need.
Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I just want to be clear. So per the administration, I sound really loud. Sorry. I don't know if I do sound very loud, but so per the administration, the amendment as written would be $18 million, and the funding source, I don't know, Director Carr or could somebody explain to me where the 18 million is coming from then for this amendment as written?
Administration.
Chair Gokangandi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. That amount would be how much it would cost to move the whole salary schedule for the permit teachers and the teachers.
So can you identify where that, I think she is asking where that money would come from, the $18 million?
I'm sorry, the funding, if we had to come up with that amount of funding, we'd have to search the budget for it. I mean, the big things that we fund, if we, the only thing I kept thinking, what could we cut that would help us with this? And I kept thinking about, well, textbooks, we don't want to cut textbooks. If our budget is already funding the things that we think are important, it would really take a reanalyzing what is the most important thing to do here. And I think with the compensation study, we would have time to look at how much will this cost us, what is important here, and what are we going to quit doing then? Because budgets are always a choice, and we have to decide where those choices lie. Right now, I don't have a good answer to that question. Where would we come up with that amount of money?
Dr. O'Halloran?
Yeah, so the maker of the motion, do you have a source for the 18? I'm sorry, Chair, would the chair be able to identify with the maker of the motion where the 18 million would come from then?
Director Carr?
I was actually relying on, so initially I was proposing that the funds be pulled from the vacancy pay, and I apologize if that is not the correct line item term or way of putting it, but basically taking the vacancies from the previous year or from this year and using that money, which I think was about 53 million, if I'm not mistaken, taking it from there. And I do have a follow-up question too.
Administration?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. For fiscal year 23, our vacancy adjustment is 58 million. So we would be adding almost 20 million to that. And in the past, our vacancy adjustment has been around 20 million. So as we, it's kind of a balance here because as we attract more staff, that vacancy adjustment shouldn't be that high. And so it would be taking a pretty big chance, I believe, to increase it that much, 20 million more. I already feel uncomfortable with the 58 million, although based on our history this year, it seems like a solid number. But that's a choice that we could make.
Okay, Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I guess I'm still kind of confused because the amendment as written just says decrease prepaid debt service and increase teacher pay. And then I'm hearing that it's coming from the vacancy adjustment and that it would be 18 million. Like I can support 100,000, but I just think without really clearly understanding what isn't going to get paid or like, you know, taking the 18 million from someplace else. I guess I'm just confused about walking me through where it's actually going to be coming from. So I have some concerns about it. That's all.
Okay, I have Director Peterson, Director Herndon, Director Simpson. Director Taylor, did you want to be put back in the queue?
Yeah, I had my hand up for a while.
Okay, we're gonna go. Okay, we're gonna go to you, and then we'll go Director Peterson, Director Herndon, and Director Simpson. And can you guys take your little hands down after you ask your question so that we can see who? Thank you. That would be really helpful.
Yep. Thank you. I usually do. Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. I guess just for clarity, I did hear the maker of the motion say I still move approval. Were you saying of the original amendment that you have or administrations? Just for clarity for me, please.
Yes.
To the chair, but to the maker of the amendment.
Yes, Director Carr.
I will approval of the administration's recommendation. So it's different. I apologize. I'm getting pushback. Yes, I will. I would like to amend the motion and move approval for the bonus.
Okay, so Madam Secretary.
Thank you.
We have, go ahead.
So that's a different motion than what I have. And so with conversation relative to this motion, I just want to be crystal clear. The motion before was to move the salaries of permit teachers and teachers with 3 years experience. Um,
And the amended motion is to approve the $100,000 bonus for permit teachers as recommended by the administration.
Okay, so this, if I'm understanding this correctly, this is what happened with the previous motion. So looking at the intent, so the motion that the discussion should be on is that Director Carr to support amendment number 11 by Director Carr to support teacher recruitment.
Yeah.
With a $100,000 amount to be given in bonuses.
Yeah.
To who? I'm sorry, just for clarity. I don't.
I think it's the permit teachers who have 3 years of experience. Director Carr, is that correct?
So I'm gonna read it as written. A one-time bonus for hard to fill permit teacher positions by setting aside the $100,000. So I am making a motion to approve of that.
Madam Chair?
Does that provide clarity?
It does. Madam Chair, members of the committee, okay, that's clear. So basically, Director Carr is moving approval of amendment number 11 as recommended by the administration.
Yeah.
Okay, so the discussion is now, can you, this new amended motion. So I'm going to go to Director Peterson. Director Peterson? Oh.
Yes. I'd like to know how many teachers are going to receive that, for one. If the administration could answer that.
Administration.
Chair Herndon, members of the committee, Chair Gokul Gandhi. It's been a long night so far, my apologies. Major Maloney, Chief Human Resources Officer. We have 430 permit teachers, and all of them essentially fill hard to fill positions for us in the district.
Okay, Director Peterson.
And so the criteria is not the third year permit teacher. The criteria is a permit teacher who is in a hard to fill position.
Correct.
Okay. And how many do we have of those? I'm sorry.
I think the administration's at 430. Is that correct? Yes, they're nodding yes.
Okay. And so if there is a...
Oh, okay, I think administration has some comments they'd like to add.
What's that?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. Just confirming it's 430. 430.
Director Peterson.
Yeah. So are there first year and second year teachers in hard to fill positions that is fully certified?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Maleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, we have teachers that are on the first step of the regular teacher schedule license that serve in hard to fill positions.
And those teachers, would they receive the bonus as well? According to this amendment?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, no, they would not.
Well, that's not fair, in my opinion. I recommend people vote against this proposal. And I just have to say it's unfortunate that we are trying to create motions by committee at this late hour, but that's the way it is. So let's move on.
Okay, I have Director Simpson next. No, I have Director Herndon next. I apologize. I am also losing it. Director Herndon, and then Director Simpson, and then back to Director Carr. Director Herndon. I think you're muted.
I'm going to pass because Director Peterson asked some of the questions that I was going to ask.
Thank you for your efficiency. Director Simpson.
Thank you. So I think that all of this conversation really speaks to the need for having a budget based on priorities, which I'm really looking forward to hoping that we can really get that moving next year, because these conversations are just painful. We all want to compensate the people who are working for us. Yes, everybody deserves, an increase in what they're making. Those hard to fill positions are challenging, whether you're a permit teacher or a new teacher. I mean, I know I have a family member who's a first year teacher in a hard school, and she's, should she deserve some compensation? Sure. So I think that compensation study and the strategic plan, priority paced budget are things that will really help us navigate this budget, because it's really difficult. And, when we try to, compensate one group or sort of taking away from another, and I just don't want to make someone feel, as I've said times this evening, I don't want to make someone feel like we're not acknowledging that they're in probably the same boat or a similar boat, and we're just kind of ignoring, their position. So those are just my struggles. Not that I don't feel like anybody deserves some of this compensation we're discussing. I just think it's not the right way to go about doing it, because I don't think we have the capacity with these, with the way that the budget is currently done, with this timeline from when we get it to hearing when we can write our amendments to when we discuss them on the floor. It's just very challenging. And every year we go through this, I just feel like, I know I'm off topic, Madam Secretary, but I just feel like we always get to these points where we're just making these positions that just feel like a punch in the stomach. So, for a multitude of reasons, I'm this tonight.
Thank you, Director Carr.
Yes, question for the administration. I'm looking at the amendment. Where did the $100,000? What made you all decide $100,000 for the one-time bonus, with the understanding that there were 430 of these permit teachers?
Administration.
Chair Gokagandi and members of the committee, one of the things that we looked at is the number of dollars that was set aside, and the size of the group that the dollars need to be allotted for. And when we look through the budget to see where we could find dollars, and this was the amount that we came up with.
Director Carr.
No, thank you for the clarification. I know that throughout this entire process, and this is now my second budget phase or process, I know that we pick and choose who we want or who we go the hardest for, as the students would like to say. And so I think it's unfortunate that we could not offer something better to those who are in front of our students every day that they're in the classroom. And yeah, I was just curious, because the $100,000, when I think back, we just created a climate justice educational position for $95,000 a year, sustainability, and nothing else was of the discussion or part of that discussion. So I just think our priorities are absolutely off. But yeah, who am I?
Okay, is there any more discussion? Was there a motion? Yes, on the floor. Yes, there was. Okay, great. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
On Director Carr's motion to approve amendment number 11 as recommended by the administration. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
You're muted, Director Herndon.
I'm trying to turn it off. It doesn't want to go. I'm sorry. This is for the amendment. I would vote yes for the amendment.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Peterson. You're muted.
You're muted. You are.
Nay.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, 1 no. The motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is amendment number 12 by Director Carr, and that is to support the recruitment and retention of MPS nutrition drivers by increasing their pay by $2 per hour.
Dr. Carr, would you wish to make comments?
Yes. I know earlier, Director Peterson or President Peterson, it was approved for the increase for, I don't remember the details, long night. Does this population or does this amendment include those those workers as identified or employees as identified in Director Peterson's amendment from earlier? Let me see if I can pull it up.
Administration.
Additional pay step.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Malini, Chief Human Resources Officer. While we could add a step to the salary schedule, no nutrition driver will receive that step increase, as there is no one at the top step currently. All nutrition drivers are scheduled to get a step increase already.
Dr. Carr.
I move approval of the amendment.
Okay, is there any discussion? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, hold on one second. Director Peterson.
Okay.
Yes, Director Peterson, go ahead.
Could we have the administration make a comment about this?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank
I did
you.
not ask you. I apologize.
Gandhi and Chair Gandhi and members of the committee. Amendment 12 increases the nutrition drivers' pay by $2 per hour. The cost would be just over $44,000. And there's currently funding in the school lunch program that could cover these additional costs. And we are available for any questions that you have.
That was helpful. Okay, Director Peterson, any follow-up?
No, that's what I wanted, just for them
Okay.
to be able to talk.
Great, thank you. Director Carr.
And I just wanted to add that this is to correct the pay error that was referenced earlier when the employee spoke. And just to address that, that's the motivation behind this amendment.
Okay, thank you. Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I think the administration had previously responded to that, and that was an area where somebody was on a different step because they came in with prior experience. So to me, my understanding that this just moves everybody up by $2, but that doesn't I just want to make sure I understand. It's $44,000. I don't know that we need to speak about this for a whole nother hour, but I don't know that this would actually address the issue, because the other issue was based on an experience and step versus, does that make sense? Maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I'm going to go to the administration for explanation.
Thank you. Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Malini, Chief Human Resources Officer. The way this amendment is written, every nutrition driver will receive a $2 increase in their hourly rates. So every nutrition driver, all 22 of them that we have, will see the increase. So that pay differential that the employee, that driver that spoke about earlier this evening, that issue would not be addressed. And it is correct that the issue where the difference in the pay levels was experienced when the person came in. The new person that was hired came in with experience, years experience, I think, at County Transit or something that was counted when we made them their salary offer. Director O'Halloran.
I mean, like I said, so I think it just changes. So we're just gonna basically boost the whole salary ranges up by $2. So it would be like, instead of 21 something to 25 something, now we're saying it's gonna be like 23 something to 27 something. But it doesn't, to go back to the original issue, doesn't like change that, which I'm okay with. I don't know that it's $44,000. Like I said, I don't know that we need to, belabor the issue, but just wanted to make sure I understand it.
Administration, anything else?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Lane, Chief Human Resources Officer. I think we've explained it well, and we'll leave it at that.
I just feel like we're forgetting to call on you, so now I'm gonna like do it out of an abundance of caution. Director Carr. Nothing, okay. Amazing. Anybody else? Okay, there was a motion on the floor, correct? Yes, great. Madam Secretary.
On Director Carr's motion to approve amendment number 12, to support the recruitment and retention of MPS nutrition drivers by increasing their pay by $2 more per hour. On the motion as read, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
Madam Chair, that was the last amendment on this meeting's agenda and the last item.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your participation and discussion, and I hope you all have a great night.
Have a good evening.
Good night, y'all.